Help yourself. I like to wander around. Is that okay? I don't stay behind the podium. Make sure that thing's on, brother.
You heard me now? All right. I don't stay behind podiums that well. So good evening, everybody. How we doing? Obviously, y'all are pretty fired up. I like that. That's good. Energy is good. I'm thinking about a piece of legislation for next year to annex Hart County, Georgia into South Carolina.
And brother, you got free reign after what you've heard. There's anything you want to say, be all right. Come on around, brother. Let's let him know we're glad to have him in Star, South Carolina. After what we've had tonight, it's been great. And Monday night at that, and we've just been through so much. Well, I want to invite now our Senator, Josh Kimbrell. He came in, and we're so honored to have him tonight. And, brother, you got free reign after what you've heard. There's anything you want to say, be all right. Come on around, brother. Let's let him know we're glad to have him in Star, South Carolina. Bless you, brother. How are you? Thank you. Help yourself. I like to wander around. Is that okay? I don't stay behind the podium. Make sure that thing's on, brother.
You heard me now? All right. I don't stay behind podiums that well. So good evening, everybody. How we doing? Obviously, y'all are pretty fired up. I like that. That's good. Energy is good. I'm thinking about a piece of legislation for next year to annex Hart County, Georgia into South Carolina. I kind of would like to have you. I think the sheriff here deserves a good red state to be part of, so we want to keep your state that way. I'm hoping Georgia is too in a couple of weeks. I've worked pretty hard with Governor Kemp on that, so we're trying to push your state to make sure it's a red state too. I will say this kind of is a funny thing to start before we get into some serious topics that I was thinking about the other day, because Frank Bryant is a very dear friend of mine. I have known him for years, and in fact, my grandmother was one of the greatest influences on my life, and she passed away unexpectedly in 2020 at a fairly young age, and huge influence on me spiritually, but he was her pastor. So therefore, he also was my pastor by extension. And I thought of a joke the other day, Sheriff, that I think you would like, and it pretty much embodied my grandmother pretty well, because y'all have talked about the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. And they said there's a church lady gets pulled over by the South Carolina Highway Patrol, in this case, South Carolina Highway Patrol. And, in this state, we did abolish your right. You don't have to have a permit to carry a gun anymore. So I was pretty proud of that. But you do still have to tell the officer you have it. So this lady gets pulled over. She's 80. And he says, "Officer, I just want to tell you before we start this conversation, I have a 9mm under the seat." She says, "Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it." And she says, "Well, I have a .380 in the center console." And then he says, "Is that all?" She says, "Well, I do have a .22 under the seat." And he said, "Ma'am, if I could just ask, what is it you're so afraid of?" And she said, "Honestly, officer, not a darn thing." So I thought that was a pretty good way to put it. But you think about it, the Second Amendment was not there for deer hunting, as much as I like to do that. It was not there for any of that. It was there ultimately to defend the rights of the people against a government that would become tyrannical enough to tell you can't. And we are in a very interesting moment in this country's history. Okay, let's be honest. I appreciated what's been said here tonight. We've worked really hard to keep South Carolina a sane state in a sea of crazy oftentimes. I do very much love our country. But I also think there are a lot of folks that want to undermine what it is. And I'm not a person that says that if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you can't be a citizen. You can be, obviously. But to say that the United States is not a country that's decidedly founded on a Judeo-Christian value system means you really don't know history that well. So it's hard for me to get lectured by people from Harvard and Yale that tell me the Bible has no place in American society when every single founder said that it did. And of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, let's just take for 1 second. We're talking about kids and making sure our kids are taught the truth and taught accurate history. Look, I understand America is not a perfect society. No society is perfect. But what's happened in the last couple of decades, as we've been told that to admire George Washington is bad, but to somehow revere Castro might be okay. And so you go to a lot of these schools and you get told that if you believe in the biblical worldview, if you believe in two genders, or you believe in traditional American principles, somehow you're a threat to society. When in reality, I'd much rather my kids learn and admire George Washington than Che Guevara or Castro. So, and I think that's where we are. That's where we've become as a country now. And of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, there are 56 that signed it. 2/3 of those folks, and you'll never get told this on most campuses, 2/3 of those people were abolitionists, meaning 2/3 didn't support slavery from the outset of the country. So you're told now that if you love the country as it was founded, that somehow you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're closed-minded, you're not tolerant, you don't care about people, when in reality, 2/3 of those that pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor believed in the equality of all people under God, and believed ultimately that rights are only inalienable because they come from a power greater than the government. And so when you're told now not to admire the founders, ultimately that's because they want you to stop remembering what they stood for. And this is a country that is under attack from within. You know, the media has made a big thing about President Trump's comment about the enemy from within. I don't think the enemy from within is necessarily any one person. The enemy from within is an ideology that says that there is no God, and that to believe in him is closed-minded or ignorant, that there is no moral standard or absolute, and that the ultimate source of our rights is government itself. That is the enemy from within. And the only way the country survives is to say that, no, we don't need Congress to tell us what our rights are. Even the Constitution doesn't tell you what your rights are. It just enumerates them. Ultimately, God himself is the giver of those rights. And I will do something I rarely ever do anymore. I'll quote a Democrat. Sorry. But it was John F. Kennedy. He probably wouldn't be one now, okay? But John F. Kennedy said that we believe that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. Amen. Kennedy was right in 1961. And frankly, John F. Kennedy would still be right in 2024. And so that is the question. Do we believe that our rights come from a power greater than government? So let's talk about what we're trying to do in South Carolina, because I need y'all to get out and vote on November 5th, if not before, okay? Because ultimately, there are two competing worldviews in this election. One is that there's no such thing as male and female, that marriage and family don't really matter, that there is no objective absolute standard. The other is we believe that there are boys and girls that aren't kittens, okay? And that we believe that marriage and the family is the cornerstone of society. And we believe ultimately that our rights come from God, not government, and that we don't worship the government. That is the choice. So I will tell you a little bit about what we've done here in South Carolina over the last 4 years and what I hope we're going to do in the coming years. And then we're going to talk about the choices facing all of us tonight and what we need to do about it, okay? So in South Carolina over the last 4 years, and I've worked really hard on all these things, I didn't get elected to be a potted plant, okay? I got elected to fight back. And I've tried to do it effectively. I've tried to do it in a way that is respectful. I'm not out there trying to just attack folks. I've tried to work with everybody that I can. But I've been pretty clear in the things I went into office to do. I think that a number of us have worked together to do it. In South Carolina right now, it is not an abortion on demand state. We defend the right of life in South Carolina, and we will do it continually. When I got elected 4 years ago, you could still have an abortion up until 20 weeks. And we had the Supreme Court of the United States and then the state Supreme Court try to tell us we couldn't do this. So we passed the heartbeat bill in 2021. Because look, I think most people can understand that if the cessation of a heartbeat signifies biological death, then the beginning of a heartbeat signifies life. Now, I believe in life at conception, but I do think that people can at least understand that, right? That if a heartbeat stopping is death, heartbeat beginning is life, we thought we could win that argument. So we passed it in 2021. We had a very left-of-center judge, Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, even in South Carolina. It was a deal made before I was ever there. And this judge came in, they struck it down. So even after the federal court said we could allow the defense of life, the state Supreme Court struck down the heartbeat law. And so in 2022, South Carolina's abortion rate quadrupled. We had people being bussed in from Georgia. We had people being bussed in from Florida to have abortions here because the state Supreme Court defied the will of the legislature. The term of that Chief Justice came up, and we replaced him with somebody that I knew would defend life, and we actually put 2 people in the Supreme Court of South Carolina that would defend life. Then we went back and passed the heartbeat bill again. The court upheld it, and the abortion rate in this state now is 20% of what it was 2 years ago. Nobody's getting bussed in from Georgia or Florida anymore. I'm very proud of that. One other thing we tried to do, when I got elected, we had people telling everybody that it was okay to have biological boys play against women in sports. Now, I'm just going to say something. I'm in church. It's a good place to have confession. I was once an 18-year-old boy, all right? When I was in high school, if all I had to say to the principal was, I feel like a girl today to take a shower with the girls, I probably would have done it. That was before my most recent baptism. I am not okay, nor will I ever be okay with a biological boy showering with a girl in any school in South Carolina. So we passed a law saying that in this state you cannot compete at any high school level, middle school level, elementary school level, or college level if you're a biological male against a woman, and you cannot take a shower with women in a women's locker room. Further, we took action this past year, and I've got some, I never thought, Sheriff, when I got elected, that I would get a lot of death threats as a South Carolina senator. I carried a gun before I got elected, but now I carry 2. So we had some folks pretty bad at the fact that I didn't think it was appropriate. I introduced my very first year in office. It took me 3 years to get it done. Last year, I partnered with your guys from Anderson, Richard Cash and Mike Kimbrell, and a number of others. We worked together, and we passed a law to say that if in South Carolina you're a doctor and you perform any kind of hormone replacement therapy or gender reassignment on anybody under the age of 18, we're going to strip you of your medical license and we're going to put you in jail. I think all of those are good things. We've also, in this state, have a release time program to where if your kids even go to a public school, they can take a Bible class and earn credit. Did you know that? We think it's okay to still talk about the Bible in a public school in South Carolina. I don't force anybody to believe in the Bible, but they sure as heck are not going to force me not to believe in it. And this year is critical. This year is critical because we are really faced with, if you think about the agenda, and look, I know I've always tried to in church. Frank knows this. I've spoken to his church many times when I was younger. I have always tried to avoid just talking about partisanship, all right? Because ultimately God rises above that. But there is truth and there are lies. And so partisan or not, let's just talk about the issues, the hard left and the hard right. You don't even have to say Democrat, Republican. Let's just say, the Bible does say that the wise man's heart is inclined to the right and the fool is inclined to the left. It does say that. In every version, by the way. It's not just the King James. Every version says it. So if you think about where we are on the right versus the left believes in gender dysphoria in 36 genders, that family doesn't matter, that abortion on demand is a good thing, and that we should be soft on people who are criminals who prey on the weak. All right? And they stand up for the Palestinian terrorists versus the Israelis who are defending their right to exist. On the other side of that equation, you have folks that believe that life is precious from conception to death, that there are people made in God's image, male and female. He made us in his image. It says that in Genesis. We still believe that families are a good thing and that families should be honored. We believe that children should be protected in their innocence, that criminals should be held accountable for their actions. And ultimately, we believe that freedom of religion doesn't mean that you just pray inside the 4 walls of this church, but that you can live it out in every place you go. And at the end of the day, I will always and forever, as long as I hold office, and even if I don't hold office, stand with the people of Israel over the Palestinian terrorists who want to kill them. I remember hearing a politician years ago, won't say who he was for now, but running for president, and they asked him in New Hampshire what was his favorite book of the New Testament. And I'm not making this up. He said Job. I would remind him it's pronounced Job, and it's in the Old Testament, which proves he'd never opened the thing. All right, he never read it. I jokingly tell people, friends of mine, I had a good friend in Congress for years, and he said that he had 2 boys and a daughter, and his daughter had already gone off to college. One of his sons had already gone off to school, and so his last kid was getting ready to go to school, and he said, I wanted to see what he would be when he grew up. I want to make sure I got it right before he left the house. He said, so I went into the bedroom, his bedroom, and I put on the bed an open Bible, and I put a $100 bill in the nightstand, and beside the $100 bill, I put an open bottle of whiskey. He said if he came straight in and went for the Bible and put it under his arm, and he was going to be a pastor, he'd be an upstanding person. I wouldn't have to worry about his morality. He'd be somebody I could be proud of, and that would be good. If he came straight in and went for the $100 bill and put it in his pocket, I knew he'd probably go into finance or some kind of banking. He would do well in life. He would make plenty of money, take care of me in retirement. So if he came in and went straight for the bottle of whiskey, then I realized we probably need intervention now. So he said, I put them all out, I hid in the closet, and he came in, he folded up the Bible, put it under his arm, put the $100 bill in his pocket, took a huge swing of whiskey, and said, oh my God, he's running for Congress. But you do need people who know what they're talking about. It does help to ask your elected officials if they ever read any of this, and if their favorite book of the New Testament is Job. If they say that it is, you should vote for somebody else. But in all seriousness, this is really a difficult moment. Because everything we believe is on the line this time. More so than any moment in our life. Look, I don't know Kamala Harris personally. I've never met her. I've met numerous presidents and vice presidents. I've not met her. But I can tell you I was deeply bothered, regardless of the policy. I didn't agree with her on any policy. But I was deeply bothered when those people came into the rally the other day and screamed, Jesus is Lord, and she said, you're at the wrong rally. If you believe that if you say Jesus is Lord, you're at the wrong rally, then I'm not voting for you ever, period, no matter what. Because some things are true for all people at all places at all times. And so we are really in a serious fight for the soul of the country. You know, I always like that the current president talks about the soul of America. I agree that the battle is for the soul of America. His view of the soul and my view of the soul are just fundamentally different. Because my view of the soul of America is a place where you can pray freely and worship God in every aspect of your life, and you don't have to choose between your principles and a paycheck. I don't think you should have to check your values at the door of where you go to work. I don't believe you only live your faith here and not on Monday, or this is Monday. But my point is, you should live it inside the church and out. And we all fall short. Okay, we all do. I do too. But you should be free to try and to ask God to guide you in your life. You should never be ashamed to speak the truth in this country. You should never feel like you're somehow a closed-minded weirdo if you think there's 2 genders. I'm sorry, I have a really hard time getting lectured on science by people who believe there are 36 genders. I have a hard time with that. I'm a reasonably well-educated man. I mean, I have an undergraduate degree, a business degree, and a law degree. And I still believe there's 2 genders, okay? But I'm worried about the future of the country. We have my wife Lily is in the back row over here. She's hiding out saying, hello, honey. She was born in Ukraine during the Soviet Union and came to the United States at 19, well before we ever met. It didn't stop my political opponents from saying she was a mail-order bride. You got to love these people. I want to pray for them, but I also want to hit them. But at the same time, she came from a country that knows what it's like not to have freedom. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've told me before, a lot of what you hear on the left in this country now is pretty much what you heard from Providence in the Soviet Union, right? I mean, you think about it, a lot of the stuff you're being told right now is stuff that they've lived with their entire lives. It's very difficult if you're born in the United States to appreciate the fact that freedom is not the rule of history. It is the exception to the rule of history. And that freedom is only maintained in a society that does believe there's a higher power than government, a higher power than your boss, a higher power than you and me. And we live in a very weird society of narcissism. I mean, the social media thing, I'm not anti-social media. I use it too. You know, I got to get reelected in 2 weeks, something like that. Feel pretty good in Spartanburg. You know, I think I'm winning by 18. You know, I've stood up for all this stuff, and I'm still beating my opponent by 18 or 20 points. This is why I'm in Anderson tonight, not in Spartanburg freaking out. But I want people up and down the ballot everywhere in the state to win if they believe these things. I've even contemplated, this is not the time or place, I've even contemplated running for governor because I want somebody to have the guts to stand up to these people. Well, we got to do it in the spirit of love. But I tell you what, this idea that we can just sit this one out or it doesn't really matter is ludicrous. Okay, everything is on the line. And if the other side wins, I'm not going to stop believing what I believe. What I say to you tonight, I'll still say to you on November the 6th, regardless of which side wins. I don't worship Donald Trump either, okay? I worship Jesus Christ. Somebody asked me, look, out of those two, do I think I'm voting for Donald? Yeah, I know that. I tried to earlier today, but the lines were an hour long, and that's good. I will still vote for him, of course. But at the end of the day, our hope is not in Donald Trump any more than it's in Kamala Harris. But it is in the belief that this country only survives if it is a place that believes that God is greater than all of us. Amen. So we go back to what I said about social media. We're a society of narcissists. We are. I mean, it's true. We believe because we can get on YouTube or Facebook and say whatever thing comes to our brain and get 1,000 likes that we are somehow the center of our universe. Let me be very clear. As a person who's now served 4 years in the South Carolina Senate, worked in the governor's office before that, I've been privileged by God to hold a good bit of authority in South Carolina. Still not about me, and I'm not the center of my own universe. And the news is you're not the center of yours either. There's only one center of the universe. It's not Donald Trump. It's not Kamala Harris. It's not me. It's not you. And the faster we all realize that, the better the country will be. I'm not trying to get too long-winded here. As I heard Abraham Lincoln once said that, you know, the problem with most preachers is when they get started, they're too lazy to stop. I'm not going to go forever. But I'm telling you, I'm asking you not only to vote, because it's easy to come here tonight at a rally about voting and say, go vote. I know you're going to. The fact you showed up on a Monday night to have this service means you're going to vote, if you haven't already. But it's not just about that, all right? It's not just about that. If you haven't read the entire Bible through, I'd encourage you to do it. All of us should, right? I mean, if you're going to say you're a believer, and I'm not trying to beat up on anybody, it's an important thing to read the entire Word of God. Now, I try to read it every day. There are days I miss too. Let me go ahead and be honest with you. I don't read it every day. I try to read it every day. I mostly do. I have read the entire Bible through several times, and I do this 365 daily Bible readings to where you read the entire Bible through in a year. If you haven't read the Bible through in an entire year, I would encourage you to do that. So when you're going to go vote. That's great. I want you to do that. But I also want you to commit tonight on October 21st of 2024, between now and October 21st, 2025, if you haven't read the entire Bible, read it. And if you have, read it again. Because then you've got to be able to teach your kids about it. So one thing you're going to learn when you read the Bible through, as we all should and I hope we all have, is when you read the book of Joshua, it's a really inspiring story, right? I mean, Joshua was believed in God completely, just like Caleb did. Even when the odds were stacked against him, he was willing to go into the promised land, which, back to what we talked about earlier today, God gave that to the people of Israel, not the United States government, not the Israeli government. Ultimately, when you talk about this anti-Israel thing, it's really anti-God. Because God gave his revelation to mankind through the people of Israel, through the Jews. He did that beyond reasons we can explain, but he still did it. It's an indisputable fact that he did. And so the Bible, as we worship it today, or read it today and worship the God of the Bible, was handed down. I mean, think about this for 1 second. This is another topic for another day, but I love apologetics. So if you think about the Bible, you've got 66 books written by more than 10 authors, over 3 continents, over 2,000 years, and it still fits together before emailing Google. It's really hard to explain that. There is no other religious text in the history of the world, of any other major religious system, where you can say that you have multiple authors over multiple continents, over multiple centuries, and the message is still together. That's the greatest proof of the Bible itself. But we all have our moments of doubt. When I have a moment of doubt, I think about one thing. Over 750 years ago, Isaiah wrote of a coming Messiah, and everything he wrote about him happened. And people said, well, they changed it after the fact. Well, they could have said that until 1948, when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls and discovered that those scrolls were actually carbon dated to 125 years before Christ. We have copies of Isaiah that predate the existence of Christ on earth, that say what he would do. We also have prophecies from 2,000 plus years ago of Ezekiel saying that after Israel was taken from the land, it would come back. And Isaiah says that can a nation be born in a single day and the birth pains happen after the birth? All that is referring to the modern state of Israel. Because it was declared in a single day in 1948 after thousands of years of exile. And whenever Isaiah talks about the birth pains coming after the birth, it means there was a war that happened after they declared independence, not before. All of that was recorded centuries before it happened. So if you question the existence of our God, or you question the authenticity of your Bible, there's 2 major facts. What I just said about the multiple authors over multiple continents over several centuries, and one of the greatest proofs is the modern existence of the state of Israel, which is why the left hates them and wants to get rid of them. So we do have to be committed. So our charge is this. Go vote, obviously. But then read the Bible between now and next year. And then finally, when you read Joshua and Judges, I'm going to end with this. When you read Joshua and Judges, Joshua is a great story, right, of courage, of heroism, because he was a man of faith. He and Caleb were the 2 believers when they went to spy out the land. They said, we can't take it. And those 2 said, yes, we can. Because they believed in God. They believed that whenever he promised them he would give them the land, he would. And the others doubted. See, others never saw the promise of God because they doubted. Those that trusted him got to see the promises because they had faith. But at the end of the book of Joshua and go into the book of Judges, do you remember the opening lines of the book of Judges? One of the saddest passages of the entire Bible in my view. It says, and after Joshua was gathered to his ancestors, meaning when he died, a generation grew up in Israel that did not know the Lord or the great things he had done for Israel. We're in that moment in American history now. Because if you think about the great things that God has done for America, you know, we're not the chosen people in the sense that the Jews were, okay? But I do believe that I think Lincoln also said, if we're not a chosen people, we're an almost chosen people. And the reason is because no other country in the history of the world has printed and disseminated the gospel and the Bible more than the United States of America. No country. And no country's done more in the history of the world to defend his people, the Jewish people, than we have. But if America turns its back on God and the Bible and turn our back on Israel, then our greatness is over. So we're told by one of the great writers of the founding era was Alexis de Tocqueville, who was the U.S. ambassador, or the French ambassador to the United States in the early days of the Republic. He wrote a book called Democracy in America. And he said, America is great because America is good. But if America ceases to be good, she will cease to be great. And that is where we are. And the reason we are ceasing to be good, and ultimately we will cease to be great, is because we have done what happened at the end of the book of Joshua and the beginning of the book of Judges. We have failed to tell the next generation what we know. So our job is threefold. It's a good Baptist sermon, three points. Okay. Vote. What's the next one? Read the Bible all the way through in the next 12 months. And the third one is tell your kids and grandkids and anybody else who will listen. Because at the end of the day, if America falls, God forbid it, but if it does, it will be because we failed to teach the next generation. And what will happen to us is what happened to Israel at the end of the book of Joshua and the beginning of the book of Judges. So that it never be said of us that a generation arose in America that did not know the Lord or the great things he had done for the United States. So God bless you all. God bless our great state, and God bless the United States of America.
Senator, maybe the next time we do the civic, we'll be at the Civic Center. That's where we like to be. And maybe 4 years from now, we'll be at the Civic Center, and he'll be running for governor.